Good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you may be, and welcome back to another reading of Biscuit Books with John. With me, John, and today's book of biscuits is A Nice Cup of Tea and a Sit Down by authors Nicey and Wifey, and today we are diving straight in with the self-proclaimed elder statesman of the biscuit tin itself, the Bourbon Biscuit. I fear I am going to create controversy here. My views on the Bourbon Biscuit are somewhat similar to my feelings towards Jennifer Lopez. When described to the uninitiated, both sound lovely, and each is greatly admired. I, however, find myself somewhat underwhelmed. I often feel that I'm missing the point with the Bourbon Biscuit, and by rights I should like it a lot more than I do. Though it frequents a great number of biscuit assortments, I often find that I will pass it over, often in favour of biscuits with apparently lesser charms. I can quite imagine that some people think that a Bourbon is about as good as it gets. I'm just not one of them. Nevertheless, I still have a great deal of respect for it, being as it is one of the elder statesmen of the biscuit tin. And it can clearly show the Johnny-come-lately biscuits a thing or two about classic biscuit design. Why it should be named after a 16th century French-Italian royal dynasty is anybody's guess. When faced with such historical conundrums, there is really only one way for the semi-diligent biscuit critic, and that is to fabricate some weak theory. Let's say that Charles II of Bourbon, or Bourbon, liked a plate of chocolate sandwich creams as he conquered the crowns of Naples and Sicily, and restored them to a united and independent kingdom. The one shown here is a Crawford's Bourbon, also well known for their custard creams. As you can see here, these Bourbons have excellent embossing and the regulation 10 hills. And you can clearly make out the little sugar crystals embedded in it. There is good sport to be had in breaking Bourbons apart to get at their chocolate cream filling, with points being scored for precision and full marks going to complete removal of the cream as a single entity. Bourbons are also reassuringly uniform in size, regardless of the manufacturer, 61mm by 31mm being the accepted standard. Perhaps Bourbon biscuits could form the basis of an SI unit of measurement, with biscuits being measured in Bourbons. For example, the digestive has a diameter of 1.13 Bourbons, or that ocean liner over there is 7.6 kilobourbons long, or the wavelength of light emitted by that krypton laser is approximately 46.1% nano Bourbons. I'm sure you see where I'm getting at. Hello there everyone, and welcome to John Drinks, the channel in which I, John, have a drink. It's been a long time since I used that intro, isn't it? You're probably wondering why I have a bottle of Bourbon Whisky balanced precariously on top of a Bourbon Biscuit. And that is because today we are not covering Guten Bourbon, the urban German bourbon, but in fact we are doing Bourbon Bourbon. Capiche? Good. This was a request. It today is not international or intergalactic or whatever other day of whatever. It is not the day of the biscuits. Today is international or interuniversal or whatever whiskey day. Yes, it is. And if anyone has an Instagram and follows one or two whiskey providers, they might well have known that already. I asked my patrons many a moon ago. I've still got that character in my head and it's going to be difficult to shake, so we might occasionally slip into mega posh. I asked them what whiskey I should do for Whiskey Day, and I gave a load of options that I thought, as with usual, I picked a load of things that I thought would be, you know, it, and then I put in a couple of kind of curveball ones which I was like, yeah, maybe. And this is what won, because of course it fucking is. So we have a biscuit flavoured bourbon, with the biscuit that it is flavoured with or of, or to emulate. And we're going to see how well they did. So we're going to do a little bit of a tasting. Now, normally when you do tastings, or at least when I do tastings, because, you know, I do have a professional life. I mean, not at the minute, but hey-ho. I try and follow one of two rules when I'm pairing with a whiskey, a rum, a sherry. They're fun to do. And it is compare or contrast. So you either want whatever you are wanting to do a tasting of to complement the food, or you want it to be completely the opposite way. So say, for example, you've got something that's quite sweet, you might want to go with something like quite tart as a food. Or alternatively, you could just go double sweet and have like a dessert board. And it works. So today I'm going to be trying the bourbon, and I'm going to be comparing it with the bourbon, and I'm going to be seeing if they nailed it, basically. That's the general idea. We're going to have a bit of fun. That's what today's video is, in case the 3 minutes of me reading out of an insane book didn't give that away. Incidentally, actually, oh, I shouldn't have thrown this away. If you want to buy this, I'll try and find an Amazon affiliate link. If I found one, it'll be down below, because my electricity bill came and it's not good news. So, thank you. If you want your hands on that, I think you can also get them elsewhere. And I'll leave a link down to the now discontinued blog, but plenty of stuff on there as well, which is all fun. Incidentally, that's a real book, and I was genuinely reading out of it. I didn't make any of that up, just so you're aware. I know, right? So fucking cool. So, we've pissed around long enough. No, we haven't. But we're going to get to the meat and taters of this now. So, that's what a bourbon looks like. Just in case you're not aware, I'll flash one up on screen. And this is the bourbon. It does smell chocolatey. Wow. Yeah, okay. The aromas are quite different, because of course they fucking are. This is a biscuit and this is alcoholic, but they are similar. This is sort of generically chocolatey, whereas there's a very particular aroma that comes with a bourbon biscuit. There's nothing special necessarily about a bourbon biscuit. You can make them yourself, although they cost like 10p a packet of like 100, so why would you? And they're delightful. They're one of my favourite biscuits. I like sandwich biscuits as a general rule, because it's like, oh, what did you have for lunch? I had a sandwich biscuit. You know? Nose is a little bit fruity on this one. Plenty of vanilla, and I am getting like there is like a slightly flowery chocolate flavour, which is kind of what this has. Anyone who's ever eaten one of these will know that it has a very specific flavour, which again is weird because there's nothing really special about these. But construct one, and they do. They have a very particular flavour. They don't necessarily taste so much as chocolate as they do a bourbon. It's its own category of chocolate-flavoured thing. And that's possibly why they've lasted as long as they have. Because, I mean, these are like a Victorian statesman of the biscuit tin. This is at some point where somebody goes, actually, they were invented in the 50s, you fuck. I'm like, all right, fair enough. A little bit chocolatey, quite vanilla-y, a little bit fruity as well. Sort of like apples and grapes, kind of a fruit component. You're going to think I'm nuts. It's reminding me a little bit of the nose you get off of like a Glenallachie. Like a Glenallachie 12, like the heavily sherried Glenallachie. Let's see what bourbon tastes like. I'm going to quickly check this hasn't cut out though. I'm going to do the whiskey. Should I do the whiskey or the bourbon? I'll do the whiskey first, because then the bourbon might pollute my palate. Yeah, let's do the whiskey first. Interesting. Okay. I think I might know precisely what that is, actually. Yeah. I don't really need to compare them, because they did not nail it. And normally, when I do tasting notes, I will say it's like this. It reminds me vaguely of it. With this, I'm almost tempted to say it is this. If it's not, it's very close. This tastes like if you took bullet bourbon and mixed in a bit of white creme de cacao. There's this jarring sweetness. It's like this odd fake chocolate flavour. And I will say now, if they have infused actual bourbon with actual bourbons, which is, I think, what they claim to do, I don't believe you. Because it's so far out. It is a vaguely chocolatey whiskey. It is chocolate-flavoured whiskey. Is it Bourbon Whisky? No. I mean, there is a bit of a weird sting at the back, which is not too great. So the predominant flavour is the bourbon. I've got to make sure I get my bourbon and bourbon the right way around because I'm tripping over it at the minute. The bourbon itself's quite nice. It's nothing special. You know, it's quite a bog standard bourbon with a gimmick. I don't know if this is maybe a surprise to you at this point because it fucking didn't shock me. But yeah, I want to quickly say as well, you know, you're probably saying, oh, he's gone in with a bias. I really want this to work. Biscuit flavoured alcohol, yes please. Okay, alright. There's really fresh vanilla and kind of pineapple flavour up front. Then it mellows out to that kind of creme de cacao style chocolate. And then there comes in a hint of dark chocolate, plenty of sweetness, like gum syrup kind of a sweetness. And then the finish is like this sort of Ovaltine-y, malty, chocolatey kind of a flavour. I've got this here, so I'm going to eat it. This is the best thing about this video. Don't get me wrong, this is fine. I'm glad I did not buy a full bottle of this. I was going to, and then I saw they had a sample, and I was like, do you know what? Just in case it's maybe not all it's lived up to be, I'm going to buy the sample. Thank fuck I bought the sample, because now I'd have this bottle of stuff that I'm like, not going to be diving into that very often. Interesting thing actually, once you've had a bourbon, more of the kind of fruity components of the whiskey comes out, and it actually improves it. Because that kind of like weird jarring chocolate flavour goes away. I wouldn't say it's particularly well put together. I'm fascinated to experiment with whiskey and biscuits now. Because infusions are fun, so why not? But yeah, it's not great. This is how I'm celebrating World Whiskey Day, with a gimmicky, not particularly well-made bourbon. Fuck. Yes, Mo, it's not great. Hi, buddy. Do you want to come and say hello? Or are you just going to sit there? Hey, what do you think of a bourbon? I'm going to wrap this up now, because I don't really have much else to say. And I think he wants let out, because he's been holding onto a shite now for 8 hours, so he's got to go kill the daffodils. Let me know down below. What biscuits would you mix with what alcohol? There we go, there's a bit of fun for you. See if we can't get a conversation going on there. I once invented a tea and biscuit martini, and I wasn't quite happy with it, and I never quite went back to it. But I should probably go back to that at some point, because it had promise, it just didn't quite work. I should go back to that at some point. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because I'm not sane. Thumb this video if you enjoyed it, and do join me next time, where I'll be drinking something else. That's disgusting, John. Today I'm going to be trying the bourbon. No, I'm not going to be trying the bourbon. Oh man, it started.